Officer Rodriguez had been patrolling the same stretch of Highway 87 for almost 8 years now. It was Tuesday afternoon, and the sun was beating down hard on the asphalt. He'd already pulled over 2 speeders and helped an elderly woman change her flat tire. Just another ordinary day on the job, or so he thought. At exactly 2:47 p.m., he noticed a blue sedan weaving slightly between lanes about half a mile ahead. The car wasn't going too fast, but something about the way it moved caught his attention. Years of experience had taught him to trust his gut, and right now, his gut was telling him this wasn't just a tired driver. Rodriguez flicked on his lights and pulled up behind the vehicle. The sedan took almost 30 seconds to pull over, which was unusual. Most people notice police lights right away. When it finally stopped on the shoulder, Rodriguez could see the driver's head moving around frantically, like he was looking for something or talking to someone. Walking up to the driver's side window, Rodriguez put on his professional smile. The man behind the wheel looked to be in his 40s, wearing a wrinkled white shirt that had seen better days. His hair was messy, and there were dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. "Good afternoon, sir. I'm Officer Rodriguez. I pulled you over because your vehicle was weaving in and out of your lane back there. Is everything all right?" The driver, who later said his name was Kevin, immediately started talking fast. "Oh no, officer. I'm so sorry. I'm just running late. For work, you know how it is. My boss is going to kill me if I'm late again. I wasn't weaving, was I? I don't think I was. Maybe the road is just bumpy here." Rodriguez noticed Kevin's hands shaking as he reached for his wallet. The man dropped it twice before finally getting his license out. "Take your time, sir. No need to rush." But Kevin kept talking. "I work at the auto shop downtown. Been there for 3 years. Good job, steady pay. Can't afford to lose it, you know. Times are tough. Gas prices going up, rent going up. Everything costs more these days." Something felt off. Rodriguez had pulled over thousands of nervous drivers over the years, but this felt different. Kevin's nervousness seemed deeper than just worry about getting a ticket. His eyes kept darting to the rearview mirror every few seconds like he was checking on something in the back seat. "Sir, do you mind if I take a look at your registration and insurance as well?" Rodriguez asked, stepping slightly to the side to get a better angle on the car's interior. Sure, of course. It's all legal. Everything's up to date. I'm a law-abiding citizen, officer. Never been in trouble with the law." Kevin fumbled through his glove compartment, papers flying everywhere. "It's here somewhere. I know I put it here. My wife is always telling me to keep things organized, but you know how it is." Rodriguez noticed Kevin had mentioned his wife, but there was no wedding ring on his finger. Small details like that always stood out to experienced officers. "No problem, take your time." As Kevin continued searching through papers, Rodriguez casually walked toward the back of the car. He'd learned long ago that sometimes you could learn more about a situation by changing your perspective. What he saw when he looked through the rear passenger window made his blood freeze in his veins. There was a little girl in the back seat. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. She was curled up in the corner, wearing a pink dress that was torn at the shoulder. Her dark hair was tangled and dirty, like she hadn't had a bath in days. But it was her eyes that hit Rodriguez like a punch to the stomach. Those eyes had seen things no child should ever see. They were wide with fear, but also empty in a way that made Rodriguez's heart break. She was staring straight at him through the window, not moving, barely even blinking. Her small hands were clutched together in her lap, and he could see she was trembling slightly. Rodriguez had seen scared children before during domestic disputes and car accidents. This was different. This child looked like she had given up hope entirely. She looked like she had been scared for so long that fear had become her normal state. The officer forced himself to keep his expression neutral even though his mind was racing. He walked back toward Kevin's window, his training kicking in. Never let a suspect know you've discovered something important until you're ready to act on it. "Find that registration yet?" Rodriguez asked, his voice staying steady despite the storm building inside him. "Almost got it, officer. Just give me another second." Kevin was sweating now, even though it wasn't that hot outside. Rodriguez glanced back at the little girl, She was still staring at him, and for just a moment he thought he saw something change in her expression. Was that hope? Or was she trying to tell him something? The pieces started clicking together in Rodriguez's mind. The nervous driver, the child who looked like she'd been through hell, the way Kevin kept checking his mirrors. This wasn't a traffic stop anymore. This was something much more serious. Rodriguez's hand moved instinctively toward his radio, but he stopped himself. He needed to be smart about this. If Kevin realized the officer had figured out something was wrong, there was no telling what might happen to the little girl. You know what, sir? Don't worry about the registration right now. Why don't you step out of the vehicle for a minute? I want to check your taillights. I think one of them might be out. It was a standard request. That wouldn't raise suspicion, but it would get Kevin away from the car and away from the child. Rodriguez needed time to think, and he needed Kevin where he could see him. As Kevin slowly got out of the car, Rodriguez caught another glimpse of the little girl. This time, he was sure she was trying to communicate with him. Her eyes were pleading, and her lips moved slightly, though he couldn't hear what she was trying to say. Rodriguez knew that the next few minutes would determine whether this little girl went home safe or disappeared forever. He'd been a cop long enough to recognize when a routine traffic stop had turned into something that could change lives forever. The afternoon sun continued beating down on the highway, but Officer Rodriguez felt like the world had suddenly gotten much colder. Everything depended on what happened next. Rodriguez felt his heart pounding as Kevin stepped out of the car. The man was even more nervous now, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. But Rodriguez's attention was divided between watching Kevin and trying to process what he'd seen in the back seat. Just walk around to the back of the car with me, sir. I want to check those taillights, Rodriguez said, guiding Kevin away from the passenger side where the little girl was sitting. As they moved toward the rear of the vehicle, Rodriguez's mind was working overtime. That little girl's face kept flashing in his memory. Something about her looked familiar, but he couldn't quite place it. The torn pink dress, the tangled dark hair, those terrified eyes. Officer, is this going to take long? I really do need to get to work, Kevin said, his voice getting higher with anxiety. My boss doesn't like it when we're late. He's already warned me about my attendance. It'll just take a minute, Rodriguez replied, pretending to examine the taillights while actually trying to get a better look at the license plate. He memorized the numbers and letters, already planning to run them through the system as soon as possible. Kevin kept talking, the words tumbling out faster and faster. You know, I've been having car trouble lately. Been meaning to get it checked out. Maybe that's why I was weaving. Sometimes the steering pulls to the right. Been saving up money to get it fixed, but you know how expensive mechanics can be these days. Rodriguez nodded along, but his mind was elsewhere. He was trying to remember something important, something he'd seen recently. Then it hit him like lightning. 3 weeks ago, he'd responded to a missing person report. A little girl had disappeared from her front yard while playing with chalk on the sidewalk. Her mother had been hanging laundry in the backyard, and when she came around to check on her daughter, the child was gone. The missing girl's name was Lily Chen. She was 6 years old. She had been wearing a pink dress when she disappeared. Rodriguez felt his stomach drop. The photograph from the missing person report was still clipped to his sun visor in the patrol car. He'd looked at it every day for the past 3 weeks, hoping for any lead, any clue that might bring the little girl home to her parents. And now she might be sitting 20 feet away from him. Rodriguez forced himself to stay calm. Years of training had taught him that the worst thing he could do right now was panic or act too quickly. If Kevin realized what was happening, the situation could turn dangerous very fast. Everything looks fine with your lights, Rodriguez said, casually. Let me just double-check your license and then we can wrap this up. He walked back to his patrol car, his legs feeling shaky. Once inside, he immediately looked at the photograph clipped to his visor. His blood ran cold. It was definitely her. The same dark eyes, the same small nose, the same heart-shaped face. Lily Chen was in the back seat of Kevin's car. Rodriguez's hands trembled as he reached for his radio. He needed backup, but he had to be careful about how he called for it. If Kevin overheard police codes about a kidnapping, there was no telling what he might do. "Dispatch, this is Unit 247, he said quietly into his radio. "I need immediate backup at my current location on Highway 87, mile marker 34. Possible code Adam situation. Repeat, possible code Adam." Code Adam was the police term for a missing child situation. Every officer in the department would know immediately that this was serious. "Copy that, 247. Units are en route. ETA approximately 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Rodriguez looked back at Kevin, who was pacing nervously by his car. The man kept glancing at the back seat, then at Rodriguez, then back at the back seat. He was getting more agitated by the minute. Rodriguez got out of his patrol car and walked back over. "Just need to verify a couple things on your license, sir. Why don't you have a seat on the hood of your car while I finish up the paperwork?" It was another tactical move. Sitting on the hood would put Kevin further from the car doors, making it harder for him to quickly get back inside if he decided to run. Kevin sat down, but his leg was bouncing nervously. "Is there a problem, officer? I mean, this is just a traffic stop, right? I wasn't speeding or anything dangerous." "Just routine," Rodriguez assured him, though nothing about this situation was routine. He glanced toward the back seat again. The little girl was still there, still staring. Now that he knew who she was, he could see the fear in her face even more clearly. Rodriguez remembered the missing person report. Lily's parents had been frantic. Her mother, Mrs. Chen, had cried so hard she could barely speak. Her father had wanted to organize search parties immediately. The whole neighborhood had come together to look for her, putting up flyers and walking through every park and wooded area for miles. And here she was, 23 days later, in the back seat of a stranger's car. Rodriguez noticed something else now. The little girl had a small bruise on her forehead that hadn't been in the original photograph. His jaw clenched with anger, but he forced himself to stay professional. "Kevin, can I ask where you're coming from today?" Rodriguez asked, trying to keep his voice conversational. "Oh, just running some errands, grocery store, bank, that kind of thing. Normal day stuff." Kevin's story kept changing. First he was late for work. Now he was running errands. Rodriguez heard the distant sound of sirens. His backup was almost here. He just needed to keep Kevin calm and keep Lily safe for a few more minutes. "And who's the little girl in your back seat?" Rodriguez asked suddenly, watching Kevin's reaction carefully. Kevin's face went white. For a moment he just stared at Rodriguez with his mouth open. Then he started talking fast again. "That's my daughter. Well, my niece, actually. My sister's kid. I'm babysitting for the day. Kids, you know how they are. They get tired on car rides." Rodriguez looked back at the little girl. She was shaking her head slightly, so subtly that Kevin couldn't see it, from where he was sitting. She was trying to tell Rodriguez that Kevin was lying. The sirens were getting louder now. Kevin noticed them too, and his anxiety level shot through the roof. "Why are there more police cars coming?" Kevin asked, standing up from the hood. "I thought this was just a traffic stop. I haven't done anything wrong." Rodriguez could see the exact moment when Kevin realized the situation had changed. The man's eyes went from nervous to calculating to desperate in the space of about 2 seconds. Kevin started looking around, probably planning an escape route, but it was too late. 2 patrol cars pulled up, their lights flashing. Officers Johnson and Martinez got out, both experienced cops who immediately understood the seriousness of the situation. Rodriguez caught Johnson's eye and nodded slightly toward the back seat of Kevin's car. Johnson's expression hardened when she saw the little girl. The next few minutes would determine whether Lily Chen finally got to go home to her parents, or whether this dangerous situation would escalate into something even worse. Rodriguez took a deep breath and prepared for whatever was about to happen. The moment Officer Johnson and Officer Martinez arrived, the whole atmosphere changed. Kevin could sense that this wasn't just about a traffic violation anymore. His eyes darted between the 3 officers, and Rodriguez could see the panic building in the man's face. Rodriguez knew he had to act fast, but also smart. One wrong move could put little Lily in even more danger. He walked over to Johnson and Martinez, speaking quietly so Kevin couldn't hear. "The little girl in the back seat matches the description of Lily Chen, the missing child from 3 weeks ago, Rodriguez. whispered. I'm almost certain it's her. We need to get her out of that car safely. Johnson nodded grimly. She'd worked plenty of child endangerment cases and knew how quickly these situations could turn bad. Martinez had children of his own, and Rodriguez could see the anger building in his partner's jaw. What's the plan? Martinez asked quietly. Rodriguez had been thinking about this for the past few minutes. We keep Kevin distracted and calm. Johnson, you approach from the passenger side and try to make contact with the girl. Martinez and I will keep Kevin's attention on us. They had to be careful. If Kevin felt cornered, he might try to use Lily. As leverage, or worse, he might try to run with her still in the car. Rodriguez walked back over to Kevin, who was now pacing back and forth beside his car. The man's shirt was soaked with sweat despite the cool breeze that had started blowing. Kevin, I'm going to need you to answer a few more questions for me, Rodriguez said, his voice calm and professional. Can you tell me more about your niece? Back there, what's her name? Kevin's mind was clearly racing. Her name? Oh, it's Jessica. Yeah, Jessica. She's a quiet kid, very shy, doesn't talk much to strangers. Rodriguez felt his heart break a little more. Kevin was making up stories about a little girl who had been missing from her family for over 3 weeks. Meanwhile, Johnson was slowly making her way around to the passenger side of the car. And how old is Jessica? Rodriguez continued, keeping Kevin's attention focused away from what Johnson was doing. She's 7. Just turned 7 last month. Big birthday party, you know how kids love birthdays. Kevin kept glancing around nervously, clearly looking for a way out of this situation. Rodriguez knew Lily was only 6, so Kevin was guessing about details. Martinez stepped forward to help keep the conversation going. Kids can be a handful on long car trips, Martinez said casually. My own kids always get cranky after being in the car too long. Is that why she's so quiet back there? Yeah, exactly, Kevin said quickly. She gets car sick sometimes, too. That's why she's all curled up like that. She's probably feeling a little nauseous. While the 2 male officers kept Kevin talking, Johnson had reached the passenger side of the car. She crouched down so she was at eye level with the back seat window. What she saw made her heart ache. The little girl was pressed against the far corner of the seat, as far from the driver's side as she could get. Her clothes were dirty, and she looked like she hadn't eaten a proper meal in days. But her eyes were alert, watching everything that was happening. Johnson tapped gently on the window. The little girl's head turned toward her, and Johnson saw a flicker of hope cross her face. Very carefully, Johnson mouthed the words, "Are you okay?" The little girl looked toward the front of the car to make sure Kevin wasn't watching, then shook her head slightly. Johnson felt her heart racing. This child was definitely not Kevin's niece. Johnson held up her badge so the little girl could see it clearly. Then she pointed to herself and mouthed, "Police, help is here." For the first time since this whole situation started, the little girl's expression changed. The blank, hopeless look was replaced by something that looked like relief, mixed with fear. She was scared to hope, but she was starting to believe that someone was finally there to help her. Back at the rear of the car, Rodriguez could see that Kevin was getting more agitated. The man kept looking around at all the police officers, and his breathing was getting faster and shallower. "Kevin, I need you to take some deep breaths," Rodriguez said. "Everything's going to be fine. We just need to sort out a few details." But Kevin was past the point of staying calm. "Why are there so many cops here?" he demanded. "This is just a traffic stop. I want to leave. I need to get Jessica home to her mother." "In just a minute," Rodriguez assured him. "Officer Johnson is just checking to make sure your passenger side door is working properly. It's a safety thing we have to do sometimes." Johnson caught Rodriguez's eye and nodded. She'd made contact with the child and confirmed what they all suspected. Now they needed to get the little girl out of the car safely. Johnson very carefully tried the car door handle. It was unlocked. She looked back at the little girl and held up one finger, then pointed toward the door, trying to signal that she was going to open it. The little girl understood. She nodded slightly and shifted closer to the door, ready to move quickly when the time came. Rodriguez knew this was the critical moment. "Kevin, I'm going to need you to walk over to my patrol car with Officer Martinez. There's some paperwork we need you to look at." It was a ploy to get Kevin as far from his car as possible. Martinez understood immediately and started walking toward the patrol car. "Come on, sir. This will just take a minute and then you can be on your way." Kevin hesitated. Something in his gut was telling him this was all wrong, but he couldn't figure out exactly what was happening. He looked back at his car, then at the officers, then back at his car. "I don't understand why this is so complicated," Kevin said. "Can't you just give me a ticket and let me go?" "We're almost done," Rodriguez assured him. "Just walk over to the patrol car with Officer Martinez." As soon as Kevin took a few steps away from his car, Johnson acted. She quietly opened the passenger door and leaned into the back seat. "Hi, sweetie," Johnson said softly. "My name is Officer Johnson. What's your name?" The little girl's voice was barely a whisper. "Lily." Johnson felt a rush of relief and anger at the same time. "Lily Chen?" The little girl nodded, tears starting to form in her eyes. "Lily, I'm going to get you out of here, okay? Your mommy and daddy have been looking for you every single day. They miss you so much." At the mention of her parents, Lily started crying, quietly. "I want to go home," she whispered. "You are going home," Johnson promised. "Right now. Can you come with me?" Lily looked toward the front of the car, clearly terrified that Kevin would see her trying to leave, but Johnson had positioned herself so that she was blocking Kevin's view. "It's okay, Lily, he can't see you. The other officers are making sure you're safe. Can you climb out of the car?" Lily was small and scared, but she was brave. She climbed, across the seat toward Johnson, moving as quietly as she could. When she was close enough, Johnson reached in and gently lifted her out of the car. The moment Lily's feet touched the ground outside the car, she wrapped her arms around Johnson's neck and held on tight. Johnson could feel the little girl trembling, but also the relief in her small body. "You're safe now," Johnson whispered in Lily's ear. "Nobody is ever going to hurt you again." By this time, Kevin had realized something was happening behind him. He turned around and saw Johnson holding Lily, and his face went completely white. "Hey," Kevin shouted. "What are you doing? Put her down. That's my niece." But it was too late. Rodriguez and Martinez immediately moved to restrain Kevin before he could get back to the car. "Sir, you need to stay calm," Rodriguez said firmly. "We need to sort out some details about the child." Kevin started struggling against the officers. "She belongs with me. You can't just take her. I have rights." But Lily, safe in Officer Johnson's arms, found her voice for the first time in weeks. "He's not my uncle," she said, her small voice carrying clearly across the quiet highway. "He took me from my house. I want my mommy and daddy." Those words changed everything. The pretense was over. Everyone knew exactly what this situation really was. The moment Lily spoke those words, everything changed on that quiet stretch of highway. Kevin stopped struggling for just a second, his face showing a mixture of defeat and panic. But then, his survival instincts kicked in, and he started fighting even harder against Officers Rodriguez and Martinez. "You don't understand," Kevin shouted, his voice getting desperate. "She's confused. Kids her age, they get mixed up sometimes. She's been with me for weeks now. I'm like family to her." Rodriguez felt sick listening to Kevin try to justify what he'd done. Martinez was having trouble keeping his professional composure, especially when he looked over and saw little Lily clinging to Officer Johnson, like her life depended on it. "Sir, you need to remain calm," Rodriguez said firmly, while Martinez worked to put handcuffs on Kevin. "You're under arrest for suspicion of kidnapping." "This is insane," Kevin protested. "You can't prove anything. It's her word against mine. And she's just a confused little girl." But Kevin's protests were falling on deaf ears. Johnson had walked Lily over to her patrol car, far enough away that the little girl wouldn't have to hear Kevin's shouting anymore. "Lily, sweetie, can you tell me your full name?" Johnson asked gently, crouching down so she was at the child's eye level. "Lily Chen," the little girl said quietly. "I live at 847 Maple Street with my mommy and daddy. My daddy works at the bank and my mommy teaches at the elementary school." Johnson felt a wave of relief. Those were exactly the details from the missing person report. There was no doubt anymore that this was the child who'd been missing for 3 weeks. Lily, you've been so brave, Johnson told her. Do you remember what happened the day you went missing? You were playing in your front yard with chalk? Lily nodded, tears starting to flow again. I was drawing a rainbow on the sidewalk. Mommy was hanging clothes in the backyard. A man came up and said he had lost his puppy. He asked if I could help him look for it. Johnson's heart ached. It was the oldest trick in the book, and it had worked on an innocent 6-year-old girl who just wanted to help find a lost puppy. Did you go with him to look for the puppy? Johnson asked. He said the puppy was just around the corner, but when we got to his car, he picked me up and put me inside. I tried to scream, but he put his hand over my mouth. He said if I was quiet, he would take me back to my mommy. But if I screamed, I would never see her again. Johnson had to take a deep breath to keep her emotions under control. She'd worked child abduction cases before, but hearing the details from the victim herself was always heartbreaking. Meanwhile, Rodriguez was reading Kevin his Miranda rights while Martinez searched the car. What Martinez found made his stomach turn. There were children's clothes in the trunk that didn't belong to Lily, along with some disturbing items that clearly showed Kevin had been planning to keep her for a long time. Rodriguez, you need to see this, Martinez called out quietly, not wanting Lily to overhear. He showed his partner what he'd found. This guy is way more dangerous than we thought. Rodriguez looked at the evidence and felt his anger building. But he forced himself to stay professional. They needed to handle this by the book to make sure Kevin never had a chance to hurt another child. Kevin, Rodriguez said, we found some items in your car that we need to discuss. Would you like to tell us about them? Kevin had gone very quiet now. The fight seemed to have gone out of him and he was staring at the ground. I want a lawyer, he mumbled. That's your right, Rodriguez replied. But right now we're more concerned about making sure we've found all the children who might be in danger. Are there other kids, Kevin? Kevin didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. Johnson had called for an ambulance to check Lily over, and she'd also contacted the detectives who had been working Lily's missing person case. Within minutes, the quiet highway was filled with emergency vehicles, social workers, and investigators. Detective Williams, who had been leading the search for Lily, arrived and immediately went to talk to the little girl. She was a specialist in crimes against children and knew how to talk to young victims without causing them more trauma. Hi, Lily. My name is Detective Williams. I've been working very hard to try to find you and bring you home to your parents. Can you tell me if the man in handcuffs over there ever hurt you? Lily looked over at Kevin, who was now sitting in the back of Rodriguez's patrol car. She nodded slowly. He was mean sometimes. When I cried for my mommy, he would get angry. He said I had to forget about my old family and that he was my family now. Detective Williams made careful notes of everything Lily said. Every detail would be important for building the case against Kevin. Did he take you to different places, Lily? Or did you stay in one place the whole time? We moved around a lot, Lily said. Sometimes we stayed in motels and sometimes we stayed in a house with no furniture. He always made me stay in the car when he went into stores. He said if anyone asked, I was supposed to say he was my daddy. The more Lily talked, the clearer it became that Kevin was an experienced predator who had planned this abduction carefully. Detective Williams suspected he might have done this before. Dr. Peterson, a child psychologist who worked with the police department, arrived to help with Lily's interview. She took over the conversation, making sure Lily felt safe and supported, while still getting the information the police needed. Lily, you did everything right, Dr. Peterson told her. When that police officer looked in the car window at you, you tried to tell him you needed help, didn't you? Lily nodded. I was scared. He wouldn't understand. But I tried to tell him with my eyes that something was wrong. I've been hoping every day that someone would find me. Officer Johnson felt tears welling up in her eyes. This brave little girl had never given up hope, even after 3 weeks of being held captive by a stranger. Well, someone did find you, Johnson said. Officer Rodriguez saw you in that car and knew something wasn't right, and now you're going to go home to your parents. At the mention of her parents, Lily's whole face lit up. Can I see them now? Can I call them? Detective Williams smiled. Lily, your parents are already on their way here. They'll be here in about 20 minutes. They've been waiting by the phone every day, hoping for this call. While they waited for Lily's parents to arrive, the paramedics checked her over. She was dehydrated and underweight, and she had some minor bruises, but considering what she'd been through, she was in remarkably good condition. Kevin, meanwhile, had been transported to the county jail. He still wasn't talking, but the evidence found in his car was already painting a clear picture of his crimes. Detectives were beginning to suspect he might be connected to other missing children cases from nearby states. As the sun started to set over Highway 87, what had begun as a routine traffic stop was ending as one of the most important rescues in Officer Rodriguez's career. In just a few minutes, a little girl who had been missing for 3 weeks would finally be reunited with her parents. But first, they had to prepare Lily for the emotional reunion that was about to happen. The sound of tires screeching on asphalt announced the arrival of Lily's parents before anyone could see their car. Mrs. Chen had barely waited for her husband to put the car in park before she jumped out and ran toward the group of police officers and emergency workers. "Where is she? Where's my baby?" Mrs. Chen cried out, her voice breaking with 3 weeks of pent-up fear and hope. Officer Johnson stepped forward, still holding Lily's hand. "She's right here, Mrs. Chen. She's safe." When Lily saw her mother running toward her, something inside the little girl seemed to wake up after being asleep for weeks. The quiet, frightened child suddenly became animated again. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, breaking free from Johnson's gentle grip and running as fast as her little legs could carry her. The reunion between mother and daughter was something that brought tears to the eyes of every police officer, paramedic, and social worker who witnessed it. Mrs. Chen scooped Lily up in her arms and held her so tight it seemed like she might never let go again. "My baby, my sweet baby," Mrs. Chen sobbed, kissing Lily's forehead over and over. "I missed you so much. I never stopped looking for you. Not for one single day." Mr. Chen reached them a moment later, wrapping his arms around both his wife and daughter. The family held each other in the middle of that highway, crying and laughing at the same time. It was the kind of moment that reminded everyone watching why they had chosen to dedicate their lives to protecting others. "Are you hurt, sweetheart?" Mr. Chen asked, gently checking his daughter over while still holding her close. "I'm okay, Daddy. The police officers took care of me. They saved me from the bad man." Lily looked over at Officer Rodriguez. "That police officer saw me in the car and knew I needed help." Rodriguez felt his heart swell with pride and relief. This was exactly the outcome he'd been hoping and praying for during those tense minutes on the highway. Detective Williams approached the family carefully, not wanting to interrupt their reunion, but knowing there were important matters to discuss. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, I'm Detective Williams. I've been leading the investigation into Lily's disappearance. I know you want to take your daughter home right now, and we're going to make that happen as quickly as possible, but we need to get Lily checked out at the hospital first just to make sure she's completely healthy." Mrs. Chen looked worried. "Is she hurt? Did that monster hurt my baby?" "The paramedics have examined her and she appears to be in good condition, considering what she's been through," Detective Williams assured them. "The hospital visit is just a precaution. We want to make sure she gets proper nutrition and care after being away from home for so long." Dr. Peterson, the child psychologist, joined the conversation. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, Lily has been incredibly brave during this ordeal. She's going to need some time to readjust to being home, and we'll have resources available to help your whole family through this process." "Whatever she needs," Mr. Chen said firmly. "Money, time, therapy, anything. We just want our daughter to be happy and healthy again." As the family prepared to leave for the hospital, Lily walked over to Officer Rodriguez. She looked up at him with those same dark eyes that had first caught his attention in the backseat of Kevin's car, but now they were filled with gratitude instead of fear. "Thank you for saving me," Lily said in her small voice. "I was so scared, but when I saw you looking at me through the window, I knew you were going to help me." Rodriguez knelt down so he was at her eye level. "Lily, you saved yourself by being so brave. You never gave up hope, and that's what helped us find you. Your parents are very proud of you, and I'm proud of you too." Lily surprised him by giving him a big hug. "Will I see you again?" I'm sure I'll see you around town. Rodriguez smiled. And if you ever need anything, you can always call the police station and ask for Officer Rodriguez, okay? As the Chen family was preparing to leave, Detective Williams pulled Rodriguez aside. Great work today, Rodriguez. Your instincts and quick thinking probably saved that little girl's life. We're already getting calls from other departments about similar cases. This Kevin guy might be responsible for more abductions than we initially thought. Rodriguez felt a chill run down his spine. How many more kids might be out there? We don't know yet, but we're going to find out. The FBI is getting involved now. This case is just getting started, but the most important part is already done. Lily is going home. Over the next few weeks, Rodriguez's instincts proved to be even more important than anyone had realized. Kevin's car was processed by forensic experts, and DNA evidence linked him to 3 other child abduction cases across 2 states. 2 other missing children were found alive, and 1 case that had been cold for 2 years was finally solved. Kevin eventually pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During his sentencing, he finally admitted to law enforcement that he had been planning to keep Lily permanently. If Rodriguez hadn't pulled over that car when he did, Lily might never have been found. 6 months after her rescue, Lily had made remarkable progress in her recovery. She was back in school, playing with her friends and slowly learning to trust the world again. Her parents had enrolled the whole family in counseling, and they were working together to heal from the trauma. On the 6-month anniversary of her rescue, the Chen family visited the police station. Lily had made a special drawing for Officer Rodriguez. It showed a police car, a little girl, and a police officer with a big smile. At the bottom, in her careful first-grade handwriting, she had written, "Thank you, Officer Rodriguez. You are my hero." Rodriguez hung that drawing on the wall in his office right next to his commendations and awards. But unlike those official recognitions, this drawing represented something more personal. It reminded him that police work wasn't just about enforcing laws or writing tickets. Sometimes, it was about trusting your instincts and being willing to look a little closer when something didn't seem right. The Chen family also started a foundation to help other families of missing children. They partnered with local law enforcement to improve training for officers on recognizing signs of child abduction. Rodriguez became a regular speaker at these training sessions, sharing his experience and encouraging other officers to trust their gut feelings. You never know when a routine traffic stop might turn into the most important moment of your career, Rodriguez would tell new officers. Always pay attention to the details that seem out of place. Sometimes a life depends on noticing what others might miss. Years later, when Rodriguez was asked about the most important day of his police career, he never hesitated. It wasn't the day he received a commendation for bravery, or the day he was promoted to sergeant. It was the day he saw a frightened little girl in the backseat of a car and decided to trust his instincts. Because sometimes, the difference between a child going home safe and a child disappearing forever comes down to one officer who cares enough to look a little closer and trust that something isn't quite right. Officer Rodriguez was that officer for Lily Chen, and his decision to act on his instincts changed not just one little girl's life, but the lives of several other children who were also rescued as a result of that investigation. Lily grew up knowing that there are good people in the world who will fight to protect children. And Officer Rodriguez continued his career knowing that he had made the kind of difference that police officers dream of making. It was a reminder that heroes aren't always the people who do extraordinary things, but sometimes they're just ordinary people who choose to care enough to act when it matters most.